My name is Abel. I'm with twolaunchtrunk.com, and I'm here with Scott King. Scott, are you there?
Yes, hi.
Okay. Like I was saying, I saw your reel, and I was actually very impressed. But when I was watching your reel, I could really feel, you know what, you take that depth. You know, it's not just...
Well, that's a great compliment. I appreciate that very much.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's very important to try to get, you know, it sounds like a cliche, but really become the character.
Mm-hmm.
And put yourself inside the character and be completely real, because nothing reads quicker than an actor that doesn't really believe what they're saying.
Well, tell us a little... The what?
No, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, you know, I obviously, you know, run twolaunchtrunk.com, and I give the actors, you know, most people know them from one row, and I try to broaden that audience for some fans thinking, oh, they have only done this. But I want you to go into depth of what you've done in the past, what you plan on doing, along those lines.
I have had a checkered career from starting back playing soldiers and cops in the 80s and 90s. And I got my start actually on a film called King Kong Lives. Dino De Laurentiis made a sequel to the 1970s version, and that Jessica Lange starred in. And it had its difficulties, and the script had its problems, but it was a fun experience. And my difficulty has been, I've had a lot of, I've lived in Los Angeles off and on for years, but I've had a lot of stopping my career for family issues, more than I would stop for 3-4 years at a time, and do a lot of theater and regional theater, and then I would come back to LA and start acting again. But I only started acting again in January. Since 2008, I did some acting in between, and I was in a film called Marked. What's a thrill to me is that my brother and I loved the Puppet Master series, and it was very ironic that I started acting again in January to have my first lead role again to be on Puppet Master. So that was a great thing.
For me, that's overwhelming. Reason being is because many actors have, oh yeah, I've heard this, have that, but you know, for you to already know about the series, you know, jumping into this new one, was there any preparation that you had to do, or that you already were like, you know what, I've seen the series, I know more or less, you know, how'd you approach that?
I actually, I don't know, there's two ways to approach it. Some actors don't like to see anything about a character or other types of characters than in a series of movies, because they don't want to color their performance by trying to imitate another actor or something. I didn't have much of a choice, because I had a couple of the films on DVD, but I couldn't find them. We moved not that long ago, and there's all kinds of things in boxes. So I didn't have the opportunity, but what I did do was just work tirelessly on trying to nail the character of SS Commandant Heinrich Mobius, which is a very cruel SS, like a colonel. And what I wanted was to be able to nail the accent, and I wanted to be able to nail the character. And this character actually, because of the genre, the character's a little bit larger than life, obviously, but I really wanted to try to bring a lot of layers to this character and not just be one-dimensional or always just screaming, or I wanted to have a lot of layers as an actor and subtleties, and try to play him as a real, albeit crazy, human being. So I just worked on the character, and I didn't focus that much on the actual past films because I knew enough to know, it's good guys, bad guys, Nazis, the puppets, the evil puppets, and that was enough to really build a base and focus on the character to see if I could nail it.
That's the genre, in a nutshell, because all the films have, somehow maybe not the Nazis or Nazi Germany involved, but it was always brought up, and I see where Full Moon's taking that approach of saying, what, many fans like that, Toulon background and Nazi Germany, so all right, let's go ahead and bring that back, and I personally like it. And from what you were explaining, being that actor, it's because that's what some of the actors did in Puppet Master 3. As opposed to just being the villain, they tried taking it, a step further. You feel for the villain, even though he's a villain.
Well, and the difficulty with playing a Nazi character, you see Schindler's List, and you see the portrayal of an evil SS colonel, and it's a challenge because so many actors, and the biggest complaint I've heard from Germans that I've known is they always play the characters the same way. They're over the top, or they say the same things. They're not human. Mm-hmm. They're one-dimensional, and
stereotype.
They're screaming or something. But I wanted to approach this as it's a human being that's very twisted and very sinister, but have some humanity. Try to. But there were times where Charles would let me go places and bring the character down a little bit. And then there's other times when he would say, no, I want to see a little more. But Charles was great because he really he liked what I did the very first time I auditioned for him, and he really let me play with the character and go places and with emotions that perhaps some actors in past films didn't have the ability, or I should say didn't have the permission to go. Mm-hmm. And so it was a great experience for me.
And it's funny that you bring up Charles Band, is because I know he has said in many interviews that he likes to give the audience a different feel. It's not your typical movie. He wants to give the audience a roller coaster ride. And seeing that this is the first, ironically, that this is the first Puppet Master he's directing. He's produced or been executive producers on the other ones, but I mean, many of the other actors and fans feel overwhelmed. Not too much overwhelmed, but being part of this genre, being part of this series. Just being Puppet Master and saying, oh yeah, many people just know them as the Killer Dolls, but there's a lot more depth to it. So that's actually really good to hear that.
I can also tell you that Charles is. I didn't know what to think. I mean, I've worked for John Gillerman, and I've worked for some. I don't want to sit here and sound like I'm a big shot because I'm not. But I've worked around some big directors, and I can tell you that he was one of the most pleasant experiences I've ever had. Charles is a consummate gentleman. He's a consummate professional, and even though they're lower budget movies, he had the impression that I got. He wants to have this Puppet Master 10 Axis Rising. He wants it to really be a fan favorite, and he personally stepped in to direct this one. Mm-hmm. Because he felt there was a responsibility to the fans and to the great work that he's done with them in the past, to bring it back to the heart of the original films, like was captured in Puppet Master 3, which I actually did not rewatch until after I'd already finished filming.
Mm-hmm.
But when I watched Richard Lynch and another actor that played the General, he was in all the James Bond movies. When I watched them, I mean, they were just really consummate professionals. They were wonderful actors, and that was the magic that was captured in that film, Puppet Master 1 and 2, and 3 seems to be a fan favorite. And we really, there was a vibe on set that we felt like that we were capturing some of that original magic that was captured in the early films.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope we did. I really do. It's funny you mentioned about the Nazi genre and so forth. What is World War II has been over for 70 years or something. My father fought in Patton's army in World War II, and it's interesting because he's passed on now, but I grew up hearing all these stories about Germany, and he was in Germany and at the end of the war, and a lot of tragic stories with obviously tragic stories, but even with some of the Germans and the children that were affected. And there's something very mysterious about when you put a Nazi flag or a Nazi character in a film. I don't know what it is. And it was ironic in the middle of filming. I was watching, the show TMZ.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching, and there was a bunch of guys joking about how do you get guys to buy underwear, and they were saying, get a sports hero to wear it, or put other guy's name on it. And then one of the guys spoke up and he said, put the guy in a Hitler mustache and you'll get all the guys' attention. So I don't know what it is about that whole Nazi era and why it's such a tragic part of humanity, human history. But there's something that draws people to those really twisted characters. And I'm not sure what it is, what it says about human nature, but it is something very interesting about it.
And I totally agree. I mean, there's no words for it. It's just, like you said, it just catches the public.
Yeah, definitely.
So, were you...
And what else was fascinating? I'll tell you something else that was very fascinating. So I played SS Commandant Heinrich Mobius. I have a sidekick who, she is equally evil, and her name is Ushi, and played by Stephanie Sanditz. And then an actor named Otto Brazina, I think is how you pronounce his last name. He's, I don't know how old he is, but he's a fascinating gentleman. He was playing Dr. Freuhofer, and this man actually remembered the Nazi invasion of Czechoslovakia, where he actually lived as a child, and he remembered the Russian invasion, which he said was actually worse as a child. And it was very surreal to be working on set and with all of these stars from the 1930s and swastikas and flags, which I actually have a few stories about them too, but we're in this surreal atmosphere, and he's telling real stories about World War II and seeing German tanks going up his street and Russian tanks, and it was an honor to be able to work with Otto, because he's and that also speaks to the level of actors. That's not speaking of myself, but speaking of the other actors. I didn't work with all of the actors, but I can tell you the actors I worked with were wonderful, and Otto is an Emmy Award-winning actor, and I think Charles really wanted to find a high quality of actors, and I know that he labored over this script for, I think, for 2 years. Someone told me that he was, going over the script and trying to get it just right until he was happy with it, that he would put his name on it as director. Mm-hmm. One thing that's really interesting too, my father was in, as I said, he was in Patton's Third Army, and as they would go into southern Germany, he would find pictures and flags, and the first thing that the American Army would do was pull down a flag, a Nazi flag in the town, and put up the American flag, and he would he would mail back these things that he would find. He would just package them up and mail them back to the States, and Hitler bust and Nazi flags. So, kind of as an homage to my father, his service in the war, I actually put a couple of items in the film that are authentic from the era of Nazi Germany. So it was kind of a nod to my father, and Charlie was very happy for me to bring them in, and it also just gave a really nice flavor to the film. So it was a great experience working with the actors and working with Charles and the crew. Some of the best crew and nicest, most professional guys I've ever worked with, and girls.
I mean,
and watching the puppets, how they work, and how many people it can take to make the puppets work, and seeing Charles, his dedication to perfection. I remember one time the new puppet, one of the new puppets is called Bombshell, which you probably are familiar with.
Yeah.
There was one take that he did over about 6, 7, 8 times, and all it was the puppet looking up, and he was so determined to wanted the look to be perfect, the angle of the head to be perfect, and he did this throughout the film. And after the actors wrapped, he spent another week and a half just filming the puppets, inserts and close-ups and so forth. Even though we worked with the puppets, I worked with the puppets, but I really feel like that it was important to him, for the fan base, and for his own reputation to really nail the way the puppets moved and so forth. Because everyone keeps saying, well, why isn't there stop action? And why no more stop action? It's so time consuming, and it's just almost a dying art, and it's very expensive and time consuming, and on the budget. Charles worked very, very hard to get the movement and the fluid movements of the puppets, and it was creepy because at times you thought they were really moving, and they were for real. You thought they were real, and you're sitting there beside them or standing beside them. Maybe they are, I don't know.
That's amazing. Well, now that we're talking about the puppets, before you got, offered the part, did you have a particular puppet you favored over the rest?
I always thought that Blade was kind of cool, and I would say, I don't know if I would say a favorite. I thought Blade was the most creepy and the most sinister. And as an irony, I have actually a scene with Blade, and that's all I'll say.
Okay, good. Yeah, because I really want this film to be, a surprise, like how you're saying, homage to, the other films and history.
Yeah.
And we can't wait. We can't wait to see what this film has to bring us and what Charles Band has to bring to the table, because I had an interview with him, and he was saying that he wanted to take control, reason being just because, not complaints, but he just felt those weren't living up to the fans' expectations, and that's what drives, obviously any company. Obviously if the fans aren't watching, who's going to watch it? As far as aside the video store, but I mean, it's.
I purchased. I honestly, I have not seen all of the, and I still haven't seen all of the Puppet Master films, but I rewatched after it was over. I rewatched 1, 2, and 3, and I remembered what a great movie 3 was, and 1 and 2 was a good movie too. And I'm equally hoping that this film will capture the original spirit of the Puppet Master series, but also see what's exciting is we don't just have Pinhead and Blade and Tunneler. We don't just have all the old favorites, but we have now even more puppets. So that's the exciting part.
Yeah, many people have been excited for the Wehrmacht, Bombshell. I forget the tank one, and Kamikaze.
The Blitzkrieg.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
And I did. I was around all of the puppets, but I had some scenes. Some of my scenes were with specific puppets, and I have some favorites. But one thing that it's really funny because my wife and my brother and I, we used to joke about Pinhead. Pinhead was so creepy because he had these enormous life-size massive hands with this little tiny head. And that's something about him that looked so creepy. And then to be working on stage with him was really weird. But I have to say, I do love some of the new puppets. Some of them are a little controversial, and some of them are a little bit. They're so. I'm very happy that he brought so many puppets, so many new puppets onto the new screen because I love the new puppets, the Nazi puppets, but I love Wehrmacht. And I love Bombshell, but they're all cool, and to actually see them working, because not all of them required puppeteers, and it was amazing to see them moving on their own, and without giving too much away, some of them actually, are mechanical in some aspects. Mm-hmm. And it was really cool working with them.
Yeah, because what I'm not sure if it's going to be on this film, but pretty much what you've been describing, it's going towards that direction. But what many fans loved in Part 3 was that even though the puppets had no huge roles, they were still in the background interacting. That it wasn't just the humans, but it was a good balance between the puppets and the humans. The puppets were there for a reason. Like in the scene of Part 3 where Andre Toulon's in the rubble, hiding away from the Nazis, and he's with the little boy Peter, with Dr. Hess, and he's talking with Dr. Hess, and they're just there, standing around, and one thing that Guy Ralph, mentioned when he filmed Dolls and Puppet Master 3 is he treated them obviously like actors, like he communicated, he just had a certain way of making those puppets believable. And that they were.
Oh, that's fascinating.
They were his friends.
Was a great actor.
Mm-hmm.
He was a wonderful actor. That's a great way. I didn't know that he was quoted as actually saying that he treated them actually just as another actor and worked off of them as an actor. Exactly,
because if you have the DVD of Part 3 on the Video Zone. You're seeing him, he's talking, and they're showing little flashbacks of him working with the puppets in that same scene, saying, most people thought this was my first puppet scene, but most people didn't realize that he was in Dolls, and that he would work off the puppets, depending how the puppeteers moved him, he would, respond as if they were actual actors, and that's what made it so believable. When he has that line saying, "You think these puppets are puppets? These were my friends before they are what you see right now."
That's great. That's a great line.
I was like, yeah, and it really makes not just as a fan, but makes you think stuff that we love, or it could even be, let's say, a sports car. Okay, why do you like that sports car? There has to be a meaning behind it. It's not just I just like the color.
Exactly. There's something that draws, and that's interesting. What is it about something that is it an experience? Is it something we see as a child? What makes us love old cars, and or what makes us love something very specific. I know I love one of my hobbies, because I own one that I'm trying to restore, but it's very expensive, but an old 1961 Lincoln convertible like Kennedy was assassinated in.
Oh, wow.
I don't know why I like it. I don't know what it is about the car, but it has a mystique about it, and it has a tragic connection with John Kennedy being assassinated in one. But there's something very graceful about it, and I don't know why and of course, my wife's into Mustangs, 65 Mustangs. So what is it that triggers something in humans that makes us drawn to something? I don't know, but that's very interesting.
And on that note, as far as, because I know you had just said, that you've seen Puppet Master 1 through 3. You may not, remember completely, but are you familiar with any of the other films of the FOMO?
Like Netflix and Blockbuster, it was hard to find them. But now that I've been involved in the production, I have found out that actually Charlie has a really good, working relationship for releasing and so forth. I believe Walmart carries a lot of the Puppet Master films, or can get them, and I guess online and through Amazon and places like that. But I would very much love to see from after 1, 2, and 3. I'd like to see, because I have not seen 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I haven't seen them. Mm-hmm. So I have no idea really what direction they went in.
And I have to admit, when you sent me that message on Facebook, I mean, I was a little surprised. I was like, man, this, that you're interested in the contest.
Yeah, I thought that was cool. I expect there's going to be some diehard fans that are going to know a lot of the answers, but I just went to a 25th anniversary last night of Nightmare on Elm Street, Dream Warriors. It was re-premiering at the Chinese Theater in Hollywood, and they had a couple of the actors from the original actors, and people connected, and it is really interesting. There's something about a film that will capture people's imagination, and I just think the entire premise and idea, and I believe Charles, I don't know if he was the original writer of the original screenplay. I'm not sure who was the original writer, but I think it was based on Charlie's original idea, and maybe he was the original writer. You might know better than I, but I just think that it's one of those films that people see and they're so entranced with it that they want to see it again, and they want to see it again and again. And I think that's why when it doesn't go in a direction that maybe the fans think that it should, that's why they're so vocal about it. And I think that's why Charles listened to some of the feedback. My understanding was that when number 9 came out, it had been about 10 years since one had been made. I don't know if that's correct, but I think that's what someone told me. And I'm so excited about Puppet Master, and believe me, I don't own a piece of it. I don't have any stake in this other than being an actor that really hopes that it gets some attention, and hopefully my role will be well received. I haven't seen the film. I've only seen one clip of the film. But from everything I read and from everything that I saw, being on the set for several weeks, it seems to have captured some of the original magic of the original.
That's good to hear. I mean, many fans have been waiting for a film like this. They had high hopes for other parts, and not that they're disappointed. It's just that they're like, man, we really liked part 3. There's just something about it, and they couldn't put their finger on it. And the way you're describing Charles Band, the way he worked on it, the way he approached it, the way you took it upon yourself to even the little things, like how you're saying about an homage to your father just by putting those actual props well, not props, but actual.
Yeah, exactly. Actual items from Nazi Germany that my father sent home.
Yeah, you want to give it that authenticity. You want to make sure that it's right. You becoming the character. It's not just some guy trying to fake anything. You're putting your career. From what you're saying, you took breaks.
And I'll tell you something very funny happened on the set. There was a very intense scene where I'm on the floor and I'm under attack, and I'm also I'm doing some attacking myself without giving too much away. And there's something that I knew in the scene that it was going to be intense, and that I'm in a fight, and then I'm on the floor, and I'm still fighting on the floor, and so I had in the corner of my left mouth, I had stage blood, and I'm screaming, and I'm sweating, and I'm fighting, and we filmed it over and over, and I told Charles ahead of time, I said, Charles, I want this to be a hit. I said, if I don't care how tired I am, if you ever see something that you don't believe in my performance, or I'm getting, from fatigue or whatever, I said, you keep shooting, I'll keep acting, and I'll keep doing it like I'm in it 100%. And I said, kick me in the butt if I'm not doing that. He said, don't worry. He said, I absolutely will. So I'm down on the floor, and I'm yelling, and I'm screaming and fighting. And after many cuts, I'm exhausted. I get up. He says, okay, we're going to break for lunch. I get up. I walk into the restroom there on set, and I thought, well, I'm going to wipe some stage blood off the corner of my mouth. And I wipe it off, and I said, oh, and there's stage blood coming out of my right nostril, kind of across my cheek, down toward where the angle that I was on the floor. And then it occurred to me, nobody put stage blood on my nose.
Oh.
I was so intensely into the scene and screaming and fighting that I started bleeding from my right nostril. So if that shows on film, that's real blood, unfortunately.
That's very. I mean, I'm glad to hear that you're okay. Nothing bad happened from that. But that's awesome.
I think maybe my blood pressure got up a little high, or I got a little too intense or something. But I'm anxious to see the scene myself, because I'm told that it's a pretty intense scene. It was a lot of work, and it was very physically. I'm a pretty bad guy in the film, but fight and gunplay and you name it. There's all kind of things going on to my character and from my character. So I'm anxious to see how it looks on film too.
I'm not sure if you can say this, but does 6-Shooter come out? Because he's hinted in the part 9. They show his hand, and they make a reference to it. But as far as timeline goes, I mean, he already existed, so it was just a question, a personal question. I'll edit it out.
My only thing is I don't know what I'm supposed to say and what I'm not supposed to say, but let me say that if you're a fan of 6-shooters, you might want to go and see this film. Charles he's such a gentleman that when we first heard that we were going that we got the roles, that we got once our agents and all that, the contracts and all that got done, finished with, we received an email that said we're going to do a read-through, and it was a great experience for me because I had read for Charles my first time meeting him. And you're kind of reading for a legend, you know, somebody that's been around for years and made, I want to say hundreds of films. I don't know how many exactly.
No, you're right.
But knowing, yeah, but knowing, to me, the gem of his, you know, the pinnacle of his work are the Puppet Master series. And then to have the opportunity to play the lead villain, this character that I worked hard on and, you know, just loved getting inside the skin and, you know, playing around with this character and seeing where I could take it. But he started the process at a read-through at a very nice Italian restaurant in Los Angeles and in near Hollywood. And it was just like from the beginning, it was a great experience. When my first audition, I didn't have any clue that they would ever even call me back. And I read for it and didn't hear anything, and then 2 weeks later, I get an email that said, Director Charles would like you to come in and read for the part of Mobius, and so I read for him, and you know, I've been doing this for years, off and on, and that can be it can be an uncomfortable experience, auditioning, but I've done it so much that you know, nothing surprises me anymore. But he could not have been more of a gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this has really been a labor of love for him for several years now. Whatever decision that he made that he was going to become a director, and whenever that happened, he decided he was going to take the series in a new direction, and that being back to the original part of the original script. They really did have a trunk that they lived in. That they really had a big trunk that they lived in, and I wouldn't want to sleep in the same room with it.
Well, I guess the last question, is there anything you would like to say to the fans?
There's an old saying, you have to love your bad guys. If you go into writing or acting and you make your bad guys one-dimensional, in about 5 minutes, the audience will yawn and they'll move on and they'll start making their grocery list tomorrow. So you have to love your bad guys, and I would very much love and welcome all the Puppet Master fans, of which I'm also a huge fan, and I'm right there with you, for the next films or for the past films. Please give me your feedback, good, bad, and ugly, but if you saw something that was moving, I appreciate it. And from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank anyone that has looked at my reel, you know, that's been quickly put together and has made a comment like that. From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. That's very, very humbling. And if somebody can go see Puppet Master 10, Axis Rising, and at least have fun and capture the thrill of that old-fashioned Puppet Master film, which I hope the finished product will look like, and believe with what Charlie is putting into it, then I've done my job, and we've got something that I can be part of horror movie history with full moon features. So that's a great thing, and I really appreciate what you said about trying to you know, tell people if they like my performance, let me know. And the other thing is kind of humbling to me. I was very, very impressed with Richard Lynch's performance, and one of the editor who's also moving on to film a movie called Real Evil. He's a director, but he's also editing the film. His name is Danny Draven, and we were talking about Richard Lynch. We were texting back and forth on the Puppet Master X side, I think, or my fan side, or my public site, which is Scott King Actor on Facebook. And he said something like he and someone else said, you know, we I've been looking at some of your stuff that you shot, and there's a lot of emotion and a lot of different layers to your character, and the torch has now been passed from Richard to Mobius. So
Wow.
that was a compliment. Now, I'll wait and I don't even like to look at myself, but we'll see what it looks like, and I'll wait and hear what the fan base says about my performance.